Right, what is up YouTube? Hope you're all having a great start today as I am, because the sun is out. Beats the previous video where I don't know if I put the clip in of me walking through the rain. I think I might have done. But yeah, this is much nicer. I feel like once the sun comes out, you don't realise how miserable you are throughout the winter. I know I am. I definitely get that, whatever it's called, like the seasonal disorder, whatever you call it. I definitely get that, because I notice as soon as the sun comes out, it's like, oh, it's amazing. Today, I'm going to take you through my first leg session of the week, which is a bit more of a quad biased one. To be fair, they're kind of evenly split, but this one, it's just, I start with more quad movements as opposed to the previous one I posted, where I start with more like hamstring and glute movements, like stiff leg, for example. The only issue is, yesterday when I was training, my tripod broke, so that means that the shots might be a little bit weird, because basically I'll try and film it, but obviously if my phone doesn't like balance on my tripod, then we might have some issues. What I could do is do the old school method of just sticking your phone up against like a shaker cup or a water bottle. The only downside to that is you might have like the point of view of watching as if you're like an ant on the floor, which isn't ideal. Or what I could do is just record this and then film. I've got a tripod ordered, so one will be coming probably for tomorrow. So what I might do is I might just record next week's, this same session, but the one that I do next week. If I do, I'll let you know in the voiceover. But yeah, I'll probably just catch you at the gym maybe, or I might film another little vid as I'm walking back from work, because I'm walking to work right now. So yeah, adios. Yes guys, just finished work. Hair's gone all over the place now, not ideal. But yeah, I'm walking back to my car now. I'm driving straight to the gym. It's leg day, so a bit of a stressful day. When you do have stressful days at work, or let's say you have something going on, the best thing you can do is just go train. Because for me personally, by the time I've finished my session, got out of it, I can't even think about what I've got going on. I'm either too knackered or I'm too happy that I've had a great session, because I find when you're just so focused on something, it's like meditation. It's like your brain just doesn't take into account anything else except what you're doing in that initial moment. Like all I can think about when I get into a set is keeping my form exactly how I want it to be, bracing my core, whatever the execution cues are for that specific exercise. If that's all in the front of my mind, whatever I have going on is in the back of my mind. So it's like an escape in that sense. Especially if you've got a personal target of 6 reps with a certain weight, or 10, 12, whatever the case is, and you get that little buzz you get just really draws you out of whatever state of mind you're in. It's one of the main reasons why I do train, to be honest. It just helps you manage the stresses of day-to-day life, and you need something like some sort of positive way to deal with that stuff, because if you don't, you end up, I don't know, turn to drinking or whatever the case is, get bad habits. Whereas training, even if it's not lifting weights, whether it's doing some form of exercise, in my opinion, by far the best way to deal with things like that. But yeah, I'll catch you in the gym for legs. Like I said before, a bit more of a quad focus session today, but regardless, it's going to be a good one. So rough sort of outline of the session. Start off with biceps as usual, move on to calves, then line leg curl, leg extension, hack squat, dumbbell RDLs, and some abs to finish. So catch you in the gym. Well, adios. Right, what is up YouTube? Hope you're all good. I'm actually filming this was supposed to, basically the leg session that I was supposed to film last week, when my tripod decided to break, so the video didn't get out. That is the contents of this video. So yeah, we are on our way to the gym. It's gonna be a good session. I've got a new tripod, which is absolutely massive. It's built like a tank. It's ridiculously tall. Obviously I can change the heights of it and stuff, but it's a serious upgrade. So yeah, it's gonna be a good session. Starting out with biceps as per usual for legs. So some dumbbell hammer curls, then some cable behind the back. They're called like Bayesian curls, which always feel good. Hopefully I can get on the cable I want for those. And then calves, I like to get them done pretty much before any of like my other leg exercises, because they don't really take away from them when you do them. I mean, you're not really using your calves when you do like an RDL or a hack squat, you know, so, or legs or anything, any other leg exercise really. So yeah, I like to do those first thing pretty much, get them done nice and quick while I'm fresh and I've got the energy to give it my all. Don't skip calves, guys, it's very important. I mean, they are harder to grow, and some people do just genetically have mint calves. Like my mate Corrigan just has sick calves for no reason, because he doesn't even train them. But yeah, it's really annoying. But yeah, definitely don't skip calves. Make sure you train them hard. After calves, we're moving on to the isolation exercises. So lying leg curl, then a leg extension, and then we're moving on to the big movements. All the movements are big and just as important as each other, but the compound movements, so it'll then be the hack squat, then the dumbbell RDLs, then finishing off with some hanging leg raises just to train abs. So yeah, good session. I really enjoy this one. It's a bit of a shorter one than my other leg session, just because there's a few less exercises. The volume is pretty similar, it's just got a little bit more isolation volume, so I tend not to need as many like warm-up sets or anything, and isolations just tend to be done a bit quicker than compounds anyway, because you can usually get away with a little bit less rest time in between the exercises. But yeah, it'll be a good session. I'll catch you in the gym. Let's get it. Right, bit of a voiceover through this training video. So first exercise we're starting out with is dumbbell hammer curls. I'm doing 2 sets on this. So the first set I used the 20s and I got a set of 6, I think it was. So yeah, bit of a heavier set to start with, then moving on to the lighter set with the 17.5s. So I think I got 8 on this, which I am happy with. In terms of cues on a dumbbell hammer curl, I basically just want to think, right, point, when you're holding onto the dumbbells, try and imagine you're trying to push them towards the floor, so that'll keep your shoulders down, because you don't really want to try and shrug this movement. Then I want to imagine trying to basically drag your wrist up towards your shoulder without actually moving your elbow up with it at the same time. As it gets harder, that is going to sort of happen inevitably, but you're going to want to try and minimize that as much as you can, because otherwise your delts are going to be taking over, which is not what you want when you're doing a bicep exercise. So yeah, I've already explained on my other leg day video, which is up on the channel, why I start my leg days with biceps, but just to reiterate, basically training biceps before legs doesn't take away from your leg training, and it just allows you to hit it when they are fresh and you're mentally fresh, so you can train them very well basically. And if you don't do dumbbell hammer curls anywhere in your program, I would probably start, because this is training your, I think it's called your brachialis, which is basically a muscle like in between your bicep and tricep, which gives your arm that thick sort of look to it. Especially if you're looking at your arms from like straight on, you'll be able to, if you develop that muscle well, you'll be able to see it from just looking at your arm in a mirror, which is pretty sick. And I personally prefer to do this exercise alternating arms. Basically just allows me to sort of lean into the working side with each rep, just so I can get like a full contraction. And the only drawback to that is the sets can take a little bit longer than if you were to do both arms at the same time, for example. But I make enough time for my training, so I'm not really too fussed about that. And then after this, we are moving on to a dual arm cable Bayesian curl, I'm pretty sure it's called. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's basically cables behind your back. So luckily, I'm fortunate to have access to the Cybex Bravo, which is basically just a cable stack which has a back pad which can adjust and set. So I can basically push against this back pad and just keep my body in position, which is much preferred to doing it on any other one basically without a back pad. But yeah, this exercise is training the biceps in the lengthened position. So another way you could do that is by doing a dumbbell incline curl, where you set the bench on like a 45-degree angle per se and allow the dumbbell to sort of like hang, so your elbows are behind your body in a sense, if you were like stood up, and curl from there. And you don't want to move your elbow when you're doing this exercise, otherwise you're just bringing it back in front of you again and sort of defeating the purpose of it. You want to keep them elbows behind your back and basically just drag your wrist up towards your shoulder. It's going to go, it won't be able to get anywhere near your shoulder, especially if you have got your arms behind your back, but that is the whole premise of it, just to train it while the biceps in the stretch position. The opposite of this would be doing something like a preacher curl, where you're basically keeping your elbow further in front of your body than even just like a normal curl, which will be training your bicep in more of the shortened position. So across your program throughout the week, I would ideally have all 3 exercises in basically. So for example, on my other leg day, I do preacher curls, training my bicep in my shortened position. I do on this leg day, I do hammer curls, which is training my brachialis, and I also do this exercise which is training my bicep in lengthened position. So I'm hitting my bicep across its whole contractile range basically, so leaving no stones unturned. And I've only shown 2 sets on this exercise, but I usually do 3. I do one heavier one, maybe like 7 to 10 reps or so, then I'll do like a 10 to 12, then like a 12 to 15. Prefer higher rep ranges with this exercise because obviously biceps are a very small muscle in comparison to some of the other ones like your quads and glutes, for example, where you can get away with lower rep ranges. But in spite of that, it's still taken to absolute failure, and as you can see, the speed of these reps have come to a halt here. And then we're moving on to the seated calf press. Now, not a lot of gyms will have a machine like this, so if your gym doesn't have a machine like this, I'd probably just set it up on like a normal leg press. Just set it up as you normally would. Put your feet, so basically just your toes are like on the very bottom of the platform. Unrack it, allow your basically heel to sort of stretch, so your toe is coming closer towards your body. Keep your knee straight, don't bend your knees whatsoever, and then just push the sled back towards the wall in front of you, and that is basically creating the same sort of movement. But if you do have access to a very nice calf machine like this, I would definitely make use of it, because the way it's like designed is, as you can see, it's on a bit of a curve, so the tension is being placed on the calf in the way that the calf strength curve is placed, so it's optimal basically in simple terms. But it also just feels mint, which is the main reason why I do it. And I'm doing 2 sets on this, so same sort of higher rep ranges. I don't really like to go below 8 and 9 on calves. I find if anything below that, your calves aren't really getting burned out that much. And I do alternate, so on one of my leg days I start with calves, which is this leg day, and then on my other leg day, on the other video, I basically sort of end with calves and abs as well. But yeah, the reason I do that is because calves, it's good to place them towards the start of each session, because that's when you have more energy. If they are a lagging muscle part, which they are for a lot of people, what you'll find is after you're doing a lot of the big exercises like hack squats, leg presses, etc., you're just going to be mentally fried, and you're probably going to, without realizing, not put as much effort into your calf raises. Whereas if you do them first, that's not really going to take away anything from your big exercises like your hack squats and your leg presses, but you're still going to be able to hit them with a lot of intensity, which is what they need. And I'm also really trying to focus on the stretch, so I'm taking like a little bit of a pause when I get into that position where my heel is elevated and my calf is completely stretched, which is not a range where your calf is sort of placed on a daily basis. I kind of talked about that in the other video, so it's very effective to do that. Then after that, we are moving on to the lying leg curl, which is training my hamstring in the shortened position, but it's also warming up my knees for when I eventually do move on to the hack squat, which is important because my knees are not the best. They're not as fresh as they were maybe a couple of years ago, because I used to bounce out of the hack squat a lot, which probably sort of knackered my knees over time. But I've reset my execution on that, which I'll show you in a bit. But in terms of cues on the lying leg curl, what I focus on really is trying to keep my core braced and keep my quads pressed against that pad. I don't really focus too much on like my hips, because in order to get your hamstring fully contracted, your hips can't really stay static. It's something I learned from Kuba. If anyone watches a lot of bodybuilding, you'll know who Kuba is. But yeah, I'm essentially trying to just imagine I'm dragging my heel up to against the wall behind me and towards the ceiling, as opposed to just trying to bring my heel up towards my glutes basically. So yeah, 3 sets on this, and I've only shown the second 2 sets because the first set I didn't record because I was working in with someone. I don't really want to record too much when I'm working in with someone, because it's sort of like invading their, space. And also, if you're someone who doesn't allow people to work in with you during your exercises, drop in the comments why, because I've never understood this. It literally doesn't take anything away from your session, so why you can't just give someone, while you're resting in between your set, let someone else do their set and then go back and forth. It doesn't make any sense. There'd be less queuing around for machines. Everything would flow more smoothly. Luckily, I train at a gym where everyone's sound and people let you work in, but I know some people who are watching this might not train at a gym that is that good, so you unfortunately might have to deal with people not letting you work in on exercises. Anyways, onto the leg extension, which is the first quad exercise of the session, and it's also the only quad exercise that will allow you to get your quads fully short. Place tension on your quads when they are fully short. You kind of a little bit with the pendulum squat, but it's not the same. So I like to do this before I do my hack squat because it's getting more blood into my quad and just into my knee joint in general. And I used to be I used to go into my sessions and think, right, I need to do the heaviest exercise first because that's when I've got the most energy for it. And if I don't, I'm going to be really weak on it. And I would do these thoughts in my head, which aren't necessarily true. I found what I would experience is some sessions I would be very strong and my joints would feel great and I'd have a great first exercise on the hack squat, for example. I'd set like all-time PRs. And then the next session, my knees would just feel terrible, or I just didn't have the same strength, or I wasn't like mentally up for it. What I found is doing isolation movements before my main compounds, even if it's just one, just sort of gets my joints a bit more warm, sort of gets my head a bit more switched on, ready for the main compound movements. So I don't have to like psych myself up like crazy right before going into it. I'm sort of already in the zone, if that makes sense. So it's definitely worth a try. There's no harm in trying anything. Definitely just try things. Don't like take everything what someone says as the gospel when it comes to training, because nothing really is. Everything's very individual. But anyways, regarding the leg extension, I always use my lifting straps on this. This helps me keep my hips lower down so I can keep more tension on my quads. Because as it gets harder, I've definitely in the past had a bad habit of allowing my hips to just rise up, and which basically just takes tension off your quads, which is not what you want. You want to keep the tension solely on your quads and not on whatever other muscle wants to take over this exercise as it gets harder. And I definitely find that this is one of the main exercises that people bottle just due to pain, because this is one of the most painful exercises if you are doing it correctly. Your quads will be screaming by the point where I am now in this set. So this next rep is going to be absolutely brutal. So yeah, if you're coming out of the set and that's not how you look, as you can see, I can barely even walk after that, then you might need to reevaluate how hard you are training your legs, because you might need to step it up a notch, because a lot of people do. And also, don't try and be as silent as a mouse when you're doing your sets as well. If you need to get aggressive just to get the reps, then get aggressive. Nobody cares if you're making a bit of noise, and if they do you actually want to look like them? They probably don't have the best physique, because a lot of the people I know with the best physiques aren't as silent as a mouse when they're training, trust me. And the people with the physiques that you probably want won't bat an eye if you make a bit of a noise when you're training too. So bear that in mind. Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take any advice from. Anyways, onto the hack squat. I kept the same weight as I did last week on this, but I got an extra rep, which I was very happy with. And with these, I'm just really trying to keep a bit of a pause at the bottom of the movement, just so I can make sure that I'm not bouncing out of it and using momentum. And I'm actually using my quad to initiate it, which is what you want. So yeah, failed after the 5th there. And then in terms of the back off, I've dropped, I think I've took about 5 and a little bit extra kilos off. And with this, a little bit extra weight than I was doing last week. But I maintain the reps, which I was very happy with, because each time I do this, I'm making it harder in some way, whether that is through more weight or more reps. And as a result, I'm making pretty substantial progress in my strength, which will signal for my body to build more muscle, which is the goal, because I need more muscle in order to win more shows. One thing to remember when you are doing any sort of quad compound movement as well, or any sort of compound movement really, is bracing. Make sure when you are getting to the bottom of this movement here, your core is as basically tight as it can be. So imagine someone is about to just punch you in the stomach as hard as they can. What are you going to do? You're going to tense up. You're probably going to like sort of crunch down into your abs a bit so it doesn't hurt as much. That's what you want to be doing at the bottom of the movement, because that's going to keep everything stable and locked in. So at the bottom, you don't just bottle it, which is easy to do if you don't know how to brace. So that would be my main cue if I'm helping someone learn how to brace properly. Just imagine someone is about to punch you as hard as they can in the stomach. What do you naturally want to do? You just want to crunch down. Try and keep that posture throughout the whole set. Then onto dumbbell RDLs, so the main glute and hamstring compound movement. So top set, starting out with the 70s, the heaviest dumbbells in the gym. And I'm going for a set of 7, which I didn't get, but this is the best I've executed this movement in a while. So I'm happy with it, because execution is better regardless, so that is still progress. Keeping my lumbar spine more neutral throughout and just getting a full range of motion through my glutes, which is what I want. I probably contribute this movement to like my whole posterior growth throughout my whole time training more than anything else, because I've been doing RDLs since I basically since I started. I kind of never did proper deadlifts. I've kind of always just done RDLs. So yeah, just 2 sets on this, one in a bit of a lower rep range with high weight, one in a bit of a higher rep range with some lower weight. So I nearly got the 11th on this, so just a little bit off. Main cue when you're doing RDLs is try and push your hips to the wall behind you and keep your knees locked in the position that they're in pretty much. So you don't need your knees to be like hyperextended. They can have a slight bend in them, but the main focus should really just to be pushing those hips back to the wall behind you, and things sort of fall into place from there. Then finishing off with some hanging leg raises. So in terms of these, I like to wear my straps because I don't want my grip strength to be a limiting factor on how many reps I can do with these. And then a lot of people tend to struggle with these, but what I've found is almost like partially pulling myself up. So if you imagine you're about to do a pull-up, but instead of like bending your arms whatsoever, just sort of do like the scapular movement. So kind of like shrug yourself up a little bit. And then once you're in that position there, kind of hold that and then drag, just basically try and imagine you're trying to drag the bottom of your feet across the wall or mirror, whatever it is in front of you, and keep your legs, don't have to be like bang on perfectly straight, but somewhat straight, and try and control the bottom, well, the way down in the movement. It's very easy to get in the habit of just letting your legs flop back down, but controlling this is really where you're making sure you're keeping the tension on your abs. So bear that in mind. I think this top set, I want to say I got like 18 or something. I'll have to count the reps and double check, but I think I did okay on this. And then with the back off, I think I got like 11 or so. And then once I failed with the 11th, I continued, but without keeping my legs straight. I did it with a bend at the knee, which meant I got like an extra 15 or something reps out, which makes it way easier when you do it with just a bend at the knee. But obviously that's just going past failure, which I can get away with doing that on abs, because I find it's one of those muscle groups that tends to recover a little bit faster for me than, let's say, my chest or my quads. So all good there. This next set I'm just going to speed up because I think I did like total across doing both the partials as well. I got like 30 reps. So we'll be here all day if I stretch this out the full duration in normal speed. So I'll catch you after this session.
Right, what's up YouTube? Hope you're all good. I've just finished my session. Obviously you've just seen the full thing, so don't need to tell you what I've just trained. It's clearly been legs. But yeah, I'm just doing a little walk after the gym, just because my heart rate is still pounding on my chest and I don't really want to get into my car and drive home. Well, start driving when my heart is just thudding. I just don't like it. I'd rather just have a nice chilled drive back. So yeah, just doing I'm just gonna walk 5 minutes just until I calm down a bit. I'm still pretty psyched up from them RDOs. Which, yeah, whole session went pretty well, to be fair. The hack squat went sick. That went exactly how I wanted it to. I upper rep on the first set I did with the same weight. Then with the second set I kept the same, second set went up and not at 1.25 each side and got the same reps. So yeah, happy with how that went. Then all the isolations just went pretty smooth as well. Nothing really, just a pretty good session, to be honest. There's not too much to go over really. But yeah, I talked over most of it when I was in there. So yeah, if you're not coming out of the session, especially on legs, just feeling absolutely smashed, you're not training hard enough. I hate to break it to you. I'll catch you in the next video. Like and subscribe. Adios.